Hello and welcome to today's KDP University's At Home with Mary Ting. I'm Trisha, and for the past 5 years, I've moved around Amazon's books teams, learning the business so I can share it with authors. Prior to Amazon, I worked as a graphic artist, a project manager, and an educator. But now I am privileged to work on the KDP University team, helping authors use the KDP website to make the most out of their author journey. All right, but we're all here to talk to Mary. International best-selling and award-winning author Mary Ting writes soulful, spellbinding stories that excite the imagination and captivate readers all over the world. Her books run a wide range of genres: science fiction, fantasy, and swoon-worthy stories. Becoming an author was a way to grieve the death of her beloved grandmother, and her first book, Crossroads, drew inspiration from a dream Mary had in high school. After realizing she wanted to become a full-time author, she retired from teaching after 20 years. Born in Seoul, Korea, Mary now resides in Southern California with her husband, 2 children, and 2 dogs, Mochi and Mocha. She enjoys oil painting and making jewelry. Welcome, Mary. There you are.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Really early good morning for you, right?
Yes, it's 7 in the morning, but that's okay.
Well, thank you for joining us this early. We appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me. This is fun.
Oh, good. Now, really interesting. A dream is what challenged you to become a full-time writer. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I didn't read a lot of YA books. This is like 10 years ago. In fact, because I was a kindergarten teacher, and I read a lot of the children's book. And I
Mhm.
was at a store one time, and I saw this book, and I started reading it, and I was like, wow, this is very interesting. And I found out this author wrote her story from a dream that she had. And I have this dream that I couldn't shake for, I don't know, 20 years. And so I thought, well, why don't I just try it? Because this author did it. So once I started doing that, I couldn't stop because it was not just my journey, but it was also the way to grieve the death of my grandmother.
Mhm.
And she's in that book as well. So it's sort of like processing my grieving and having this creative outlet that I never knew I needed. And then
Right.
and it just happened and I couldn't stop.
That's amazing. Now, your first book, Crossroads, you
Yes,
self-published that book, right?
yes. Well, that book has been through a journey itself
Right.
because I didn't know KDP existed at that time.
Uh-huh.
And um, I didn't know you could self-publish. So I went through a company. They helped me self-publish that book. And then I a small indie publisher reached out to me, and then I published through them. And afterwards, just learning the craft of self-publishing and marketing, and I was thinking to myself, wow, I could make all this money by myself. So I'm doing all the work, I might as well just benefit from it. So then
Right.
afterwards, I started learning more of KDP
Uh-huh.
and just self-publishing all these books because I didn't have time. I wasn't looking for an agent or anything like that back then because I was
Hmm.
still working full time and I had my kids. They were young. I was just too
Hmm.
busy to do anything else. And let alone, I didn't even think I could be an author. So
Right.
KDP allowed me to be an author. And when I told everyone, hey, I wrote a book, and they're like, do you have an agent, a publisher? I'm like, no. And then it was kind of a long process of explaining to them like what KDP is. And then I just took off from there. And then I
Because
retired
this
from
is about,
teaching.
yay. I bet that was a little bittersweet.
Yes, yes. I mean, after almost 20 years of teaching and just
Hmm.
saying goodbye to a profession that you love, but
Hmm.
sorry, I was making more money being an author, and I was just loving it. My passion switched from being a teacher to a writer. So that's how it
Nice.
happened.
Oh, good. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Um, so when you started with KDP and you started publishing with KDP,
Mhm.
it's kind of a learning curve to your point. What was I think the biggest hurdle that you found when you were starting to publish? What did you need to learn?
Well, to be honest, first was just maneuvering in KDP. Like, what is
Hmm.
this? What are they asking? And I was lucky to have a friend who already self-published.
Uh-huh.
So she was able to help me with my questions. But
Hmm.
I didn't know that there was a support system. And there's
Hmm.
a support system now, which I think it's so much easier for other authors to just dive in. And if they have a question, they could either ask a friend or they can even contact you
Hmm.
or anybody else in KDP. It was just, here's someone to contact. I can reach them, have my question answered within 24 hours. And it would have
Hmm.
been nice back then if I knew, but I didn't do my research. I think that was one of the hardest part was like, what do I do when I get in here? Or and
Right. Right.
finding out who to do my covers and things like that. But I mean, but now I know I have all that uh, support system there. Someone to do
Uh-huh.
editing, cover designing, and things like that. But when I first started, I didn't know anything. I just kind of dove in
Right.
without really doing any research, which I think I should have. It would have made my life
Well,
easier.
maybe. I
Yeah,
think sometimes it's easier just to kind of run into the unknown because if we know everything up front, maybe we'd be like, do I really want to do this?
that's true.
So how long you've mentioned now you're a hybrid author now. So you
Yes.
you do both self-publishing and you have traditional publishing.
Yes.
What kind of talk to us about the journey and how long it took you to kind of move and migrate from being a self-published author to having both self-publishing and traditional?
Um, at the very beginning, I didn't take being an author serious. This was my outlet. And
Hmm.
I never knew that I was going to get so much feedback. Um, and when I wrote my book and I published it, and I thought, okay, well, that's it. This was self-healing for me. And
Uh-huh.
maybe I'll write another one or not. I didn't know. But then when I was getting all these Facebook messages, email messages, are you going to write book two? Is there going to be book two? I was like, wow, this is fun. And everyone wants book two. So I just started writing. And then from then on, I couldn't stop writing. And I started writing different genres. But
Hmm.
okay, so this coming year will be 2021 will be my 10th year
Hmm.
anniversary. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I still can't believe I've been writing for 10 years, but I think maybe about 5 years ago is when I first met my agent.
Hmm.
And it was because I was self-published, and it was because I did well as being a self-published author and how many books I have sold that took an interest. Um,
Hmm.
and I love my agent, and we're on this different journey now.
Hmm.
Um, I have a publisher too for my romance novel and my science fiction fantasy novel as well. But I think it took about 5 years. But again, I wasn't seriously looking for an agent because
Hmm.
why? I was being successful with KDP, but then I also wanted to try the other side, being a hybrid
Hmm.
author, because I know a lot of authors who are hybrid author and they have the pros and cons for both worlds, of course. And I think after a while, you just want to grow.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted to do. Try it, like I said, I didn't want to be an author, but now that I am, okay, I
Right.
need to expand and explore and see what's out there. That's how
Um,
it.
okay. Now you've mentioned a couple of times you don't stick strictly to one genre. So you write across a few different genres.
Yes. Well, I only first wrote young adult books
Hmm.
because those are the genre that's the genre that I fell in love with. And
Hmm.
then um, after a certain book came out, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention, but um,
Yeah.
well, after I'm allowed, I can say what book. Oh, after 50 Shades came, I think that genre just exploded. And
Uh-huh.
at that time, I was PTA president, and my PTA moms wanted me to write a book like that. And not that my romance book is like that, but um, they wanted me to write a different genre
Uh-huh.
besides adult. They're like, Mary, come on, let's grow up and write more adult. So I was like, okay, you know what? I don't know, but okay, I'll try. And then I couldn't stop. And this is probably my best write. Well, and I'm not, okay, maybe the best, how many words I got out in a week was like
Uh-huh.
30,000 because I could not stop. And
Oh
that's
my
like
goodness,
almost,
that's amazing.
yeah. But this was me like, okay, typing, and then here's your pizza. To my kids, because it was summer. Okay, and I'm eating apple or whatever, eating and typing. And here's your dinner. Okay, and I'm back to typing. I mean, just nonstop. And oh, okay, hi, honey, dinner's over there.
Right.
Nonstop typing, and I had so much fun. I couldn't stop. And so I actually have a pen name because I was still
Uh-huh.
teaching at and I didn't want to confuse my young adult readers with the romance reader because then, though it's not erotica, it's still a little bit sweet and steamier.
Right.
Uh, and then afterwards, I stayed away from the romance because I wanted to concentrate more of the published books, which is under my real
Hmm.
name, Mary Ting, which is my sci-fi Izan series. And
Hmm.
and then my agent and I we talked about changing genres because I kind of missed that after 3 years not writing that romance novel. I was
Uh-huh.
like, I'm missing something. But I think when you're hopping around genres, you feel like
Hmm.
you have to kind of go through all that again because you miss a part of, you feel like you're missing something. I can't explain it. But anyways, When the Wind Chime just released. And I'm so excited for everyone to read that book. It's a sweet romance, flirty,
Oh,
clean
nice.
with the publisher this time. And we'll see how it goes.
Well, good. Good luck with that.
Well, thank you. So that's my little journey here.
Um, so tell me a little bit about the difference between writing young adult is an interesting genre because it has a lot of tropes and that are different from, well, definitely romance, but also different from other adult, more adult novels. So can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges of writing young adult?
I think the reason why there's a challenge there is because as an author, I'm sure other authors do this too. They kind of reach into their young side and try to
Mhm.
remember what they experienced during that young adult age. And my generation of what I had experienced is very
Mhm.
different from what my kids are experiencing. And
Right.
just the different words they use. I'm like, what does this mean? And I can't even remember my kids would say something. I'm like nudging my honey, like, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Because I don't. And I think that I have to be very careful as a young adult writer of what you put in there because like for example, my daughter was reading this young adult book that I'm writing that's coming out next year, and she's like,
Mhm.
"Mom, we don't say it that way. This doesn't sound like a young adult book." I was like, "Oh, darn it! Can you read it? Can you tell me, like, what sounds cool to the young adult readers versus mature readers like me?" And so,
Right.
because I don't want to sound like an adult when I'm supposed to sound like, an 18-year-old, well, 18
Right.
year old adult, but but you
Right.
understand
Right.
there's a different language there that I don't
Mhm.
know. And
Yeah.
so,
I always ask my kids for a translation whenever they're talking to me. I'm like, I
yeah,
have no idea what you just said to me, so I need a translation.
yeah, exactly. So you understand. But
Oh
so I
yeah,
think the adult book
100%.
is a bit harder, and you have to be very careful of what you say. And even though to me it might sound perfectly fine, to somebody else, especially young adult readers, that's a no-no.
Hmm.
It's a very sensitive world now, and so we have
Hmm.
to tread on. very careful waters. But as far as romance, I try to reach into not my own experience all the time, uh, but of other people's experience too. I
Uh-huh.
think in a romance writer, you kind of need to know or have been through certain things. Like I
Hmm.
would not talk about um, certain topic because I don't know enough about it. So that,
Hmm.
I mean, you also have to be careful there too. But I
Hmm.
think romance is a little bit easier to write in the sense that I don't have to be too careful because
Hmm.
I'm just talking about the adult part of me.
Right. Right.
I'm experiencing it right now. Right.
Right.
So
Thank you
those
for
are,
sharing that. Those are amazing call outs. I think that there are significant challenges with both, but the young adult, I think you're spot on that the language, just the cadence of speech, all of that can be really challenging.
yes, yes. And also,
What about,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I was just going to ask the difference between marketing. Is there a significant change between marketing to a younger crowd, right, with the YA versus a more adult or mature audience with the romance?
um, I think that, well, what I am experiencing now is that I used to be able to just promote on Facebook.
Hmm.
Um, but now I realizing that young adult readers are mostly on Instagram.
Hmm. Yeah, they're
So,
not on Facebook anymore.
and I didn't want to, but I had to open up an Instagram account. Because juggling all different sites is difficult as it is. But
Yeah.
thank goodness where you can just promote on one side and then you'll see it on the other side.
Hmm.
But you can link it together. But I've
Hmm.
always been on Facebook since 10 years ago, or how many years
Hmm.
back then, and then Twitter, because those were the two
Right.
main. And so I realized my more mature readers are still on Facebook, and but my young adult readers have migrated to Instagram. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, back and forth marketing there. And if I want to reach out to more of my mature readers, I need to stay on Facebook.
Hmm.
And lucky for me, some of them have actually opened up an Instagram account just to support me. So that was very nice.
Aw, that
Like,
is
Mary,
very sweet.
but they said, Mary, I don't have many followers. I don't know how to use this account, but I'm going to join just so that I can support you and like you in comments. And I'm like, that is so sweet. Um,
That is.
so I appreciate everyone doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing customer loyalty. I mean, reader loyalty. That's something that everybody strives to achieve.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about marketing. Is social media your primary avenue for marketing, or do you also market in other places?
I do mostly on social medias, but I've I can't remember what year, but I was kind of nervous, but I just stepped out into that social media world and went to a book signing when I
Oh, wow.
self-published.
Uh-huh.
And it was amazing because, first of all, you don't realize that there are other readers out there besides people who are on social media. I know that there are a lot of readers, but you don't know that how many readers have read your book unless you
Uh-huh.
actually. And I was surprised to have a line, and I was excited to have a line, and
Oh, that's
people bring
amazing.
books for me to sign. That it might have been my first copy, or people
Hmm.
telling me like you're my first Kindle reader or Kindle author, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my, that's so exciting to hear.
Right.
And besides going book signing, well, being a hybrid author, I got to sign at Barnes and Noble. That was like a big check off list for me.
Right.
And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and I do have a newsletter
Okay.
that I don't try to send out too often because I'm sure these readers are bombarded with other authors as
Hmm.
well. But it's um, I that's sort of my last resort. But I know that a lot of authors are successful with that. But for me, I feel like just reaching out to my readers on social media sites, or going to book signing and meeting them in person. It's so much
Mhm,
fun to meet readers around the world, and
mhm,
you develop a friendship.
mhm.
So
So, what are you doing this year? I mean, you haven't been able to go to events. So, what have you been doing instead?
um, doing like virtual book signing, and sometimes readers will reach out to me and ask me like for a signed book. I
Hmm.
don't have a store on my website, only because it's just too distracting. You know, if I get one sale, I'll be like wanting to rush and get it to the reader. So I
Right.
I don't do that. But if they reach out to me personally and they say, Mary, can I get a signed book for you? Or I've had readers reach out because they wanted to buy a birthday present, a
Hmm.
signed book to a reader. That's kind of amazing gift, and I'm not going to
Hmm.
say no. So that was another way as well.
Oh,
So
that's very
and
kind.
so virtual book signings. Um, oh, and talking to other authors through Facebook or Instagram Live like this,
Mhm.
just having a conversation with the readers. That's fun.
Good. Have you been doing a lot of those?
And not too many, but some, yeah.
Hmm.
And I thought about kind of creating my own, but then I'm like, oh, I've got all these edits. I don't have time. And more
So
books to
let's
write.
yeah,
Sorry.
so let's talk about that. That's okay. How many books a year do you write?
Um, I when I was self-publishing, I would just pop out books, like 4 to 5 books.
Hmm.
Maybe one time I even had 6 with an anthology. I don't remember. But now that I'm also a hybrid author, the series the book comes out once a year.
Okay.
And now that I have a romance publisher and my young adult publisher, I make sure that I meet their deadlines first.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then I write fun books for myself as well. And because there are just too many ideas in my head, and I just, just want to get it out. So next year, I think I'll have about 4 books out.
Oh, good.
That's still a lot, maybe.
That is a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. I'm amazed when people are like, I published a book, and I'm like, I'm in awe. So 4 books in a year is amazing.
Um, yeah, I mean, it is, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not enough. But I'm like, okay, I'll just kind of put it back, because you don't want to publish like so many books and then there's just too many books and you don't have time to market, you don't have
Hmm.
time to just slow down and let readers enjoy and get excited for book 2, right? So
Right. So let's talk about release. So what does a release look like for you? How do you market a new release?
um, well, if I self-published, I would be doing a lot more work, like, first make sure I have a good editor and a nice cover. I have a group where my readers are, I guess it's kind of weird for me to say the word fan, but I call them my friends. But
Uh-huh.
I have a special group where they read the book before, so they get the arc, and
Uh-huh.
if they find errors, they'll let me know. But mostly it's for review. When that book
Okay.
launches, we make sure that they're ready and they post a review.
Hmm.
Not a whole lot, but enough to
Hmm.
get me that little jump start.
Hmm.
And also, I'll reach out to bloggers. I know there aren't that many bloggers as there used to be, like 10 years ago.
Right. There was a
But
lot more back then.
yeah, but I do reach out to some that I know that are still running,
Hmm.
and they have their own team. So it makes my life easier because they'll handle the blog tour. But with the hybrid, my publisher does Instagram tours. I don't have to reach out to them. I make sure that I have my review team ready.
Hmm.
But other than that, I'll post on social media sites, get my newsletters out, and then I just kind of share here and there, and I ask my team to share.
Mhm.
And so I don't do a lot of the legwork with the publisher, but I'm so used to that I
Mhm.
still do everything that
Some of it.
I do, yeah, as a self-publisher. I
Uh-huh.
mean, self-author, yeah. But it's a lot of
So
work.
it is. It is definitely. So how much time do you set aside for, like, talk me through a week, during a week, how much time do you set aside for writing and how much time do you set aside for doing the business aspect of it?
To be honest, I spend most of the time writing and editing,
Hmm.
and um, and just posting on social media sites. Just
Hmm.
thanking, if I have a blog tour, I'll go there and make sure that I thank them. But sometimes, like, it's really weird. Like some of these blogs, I can't post anything. I think it's I have to switch my email to Gmail or something. But anyways, um, I spend most of the time writing and editing, and
Uh-huh.
marketing, not so much unless it gets closer to the launch date.
Uh-huh.
So for example, if I'll post, so here's a cover release, and then I'll do a countdown. In 30 days. I don't do too far in advance because everyone forgets. But
Right.
uh, 30 days, here's 30 days, and 15 days. And then I start as it get closer, 10, 9, 8. It's fun for everyone to get excited and for me too, because oh my gosh, my book is coming out. But so I'll do more of the marketing when it gets closer. And
Hmm.
that's when I have to set a time to push my book aside and concentrate on
Hmm.
marketing. I still
Okay.
have family at home, so I'm
Right.
doing other things too. But
Right.
and as far as setting a time for writing, I write whenever I can. And this is so
Okay.
bad. I'll even write when I'm watching a movie. So I have the TV on watching a movie with my husband. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. And then like getting one sentence down. Oh, this is
Right.
interesting. I might have written only maybe a paragraph within the whole movie, but for me, a paragraph is a paragraph. And that's
Right.
an extra step towards getting the book done.
Right.
So
Right.
even when I'm cooking, I'm like stirring, frying, whatever, the chicken, whatever, and I'll go back because I don't want to lose my thoughts. And
Right.
so my book is on my island and I'm just like typing, and then I'm sorry, my laptop is on the island. I'll finish my thought, and then I'll even go on my social media and like, hey, what's going on over here, or who's liking my post, or who's commenting. And I have another group page where it's not so much where I present my art, but because it's getting really
Hmm.
difficult to reach out in Facebook. I have a lot
Hmm.
of followers on my author page, but not a lot of people can see my author page. So I created a group page where
Hmm.
you get a little bit more exposure
Hmm.
somehow. And I think you get a ping when I post something.
Hmm.
So then the readers gets a little nudge besides my author
Right.
page and kind of sees it. It just kind of, if you like and comment, I think you get to see that page more. But if you
Right.
don't, then it just, yeah, you know what I mean. So I created this group page again, and that's where we do a lot of fun stuff. Like right now it's Christmas time, and
Right.
I have somebody helping me like post some fun pictures there, and we're all laughing in there just to escape from whatever is happening now. And
Right.
sometimes it's related to my book, sometimes it's not. Um, so
But it's just a way to engage with that audience. So the ARC readers, sometimes we hear them referred to as beta readers, but those
yeah.
individuals that help read your book and find potential errors, or offer suggestions. Approximately how many people do you have in that group?
Okay. So it depends on if I self-publish my book or if it's a book for a publisher. If it's a
Hmm.
book for a publisher, I know that it's been through a ringer. I've done
Right.
a lot because there are set of rules that you have to follow. Make sure it's all active and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So, and then they have their proofreaders already. But then just in case, I send out to a couple of my readers, ARC readers, only because no one is perfect. Doesn't
Right.
matter who you're working with. Um, and also just to make sure that like I said, sometimes you can't catch all the errors.
Right.
I don't want to give it to too many readers because then you get too many feedbacks. I'm not looking
Mhm.
more for feedbacks. I'm looking more for, do you see, is there a period there? Is there a period, or is there
Right.
quotation missing? Or did I say something like, it's blue, but it's red? But those
Right.
are the stuff that the publisher would have picked up, the editor from the publisher would have picked up. But if I'm self-publishing this book, I'm not perfect either, even though I try to write
Right.
notes, and so I should be better at that. Um, but one time my beta reader did check that, you said this was inside the glass, but it's not inside the glass. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Even though I went through an editor. So, you know what I
Right.
mean? Everyone misses things and it's okay, but that's why you have a team. I think if you have a team and you know that book is the best that it can be, then you're all set.
Good. So let's talk about your team. For the self-published aspect, kind of who's on your team when you self-publish?
Okay, so when I first self-published, I never thought about creating a team. But
Mhm.
then people reached out to me and said, "Hey, Mary, do you want a beta reader?" And I had no idea what a beta reader meant. So I'm like, "Well, what is that?" And they're like, "Well, I'll look for errors for you because I found
Uh-huh.
some in this book." I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And then it's kind of scary because I don't know that person at first,
Mhm.
and you worry about your books being uh, I can't think of the word, being pirated.
Pirated?
That's the word.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I remember 10 years ago when I first started, there was a lot of that going on because
Yeah.
we didn't know.
Mhm.
And a lot of the books were on certain site and then people will go there to grab it for free. Anyways, I
Mhm.
won't talk about that too much. But so one thing led to another, and then I started having one person to 5 readers. And then later on, I thought, well, I should create a team. This will be fun. And then
Mhm.
it didn't just become for ARC readers, it became my group of readers
Mhm.
and friends. So if I needed information, I would go in there and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, this cover or this cover?
Mhm.
Or, or if there are a couple times where I have a male model in my cover for my romance novels.
Right.
So I ask them, which one do you think, or what pose, and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't just ask them just to read my books, but just ask for their opinions. And then we kind of all became kind of like friends in there.
Mhm.
It's a little
Good.
community.
Right. Right. All right. If you're comfortable with it, we're going to take some questions from people that are in attendance. All right. So let's see. Um, oh, Lee wants to know, do you compensate your reading team?
Um, no, and and even though I want to, I do
Uh-huh.
giveaways there. But if I compensate everyone, then first of all, how much do I compensate, right?
Right.
And if you have like 100 or 2,000 people in your group, I'm gonna go broke. But I
Yeah.
do giveaways. That's a good question, Lee. I do giveaways like sign books,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
or what I did was my publisher, and am I allowed to say the name of who they're working with?
Sure.
Jean Bookner, and she does amazing box set. So
Uh-huh.
to create, for example, the wind chimes, when the wind chimes book. It's I got the book sleeve, the candles, even a wind chime, and
Oh,
I gave that box set away in that group, and I wish I
nice.
could present it to everyone, but I can't, and
It's
so
not.
and they understand,
Uh-huh.
and so
I
I.
think building that group with people that want to be involved in the process is kind
Mhm.
of the best avenue because they're your fans, they're your readers. They
Yeah,
want that access early on, and sometimes that's payment enough.
exactly, yeah. and
Mhm.
they know they're in there not for any awards, for compensating or
Mhm.
just because they want to be in there and they want to support me, which I really appreciate because
Right.
it's as an author, it's such a small world. You're just in your room by yourself, and
Right.
I do have a group of authors that I talk to, but other than that, you're sort of secluded, and to
Mhm.
be able to reach out to readers and get their opinion, or for them to say, hey, we love your book, is just such an amazing feeling that gives you that drive to continue.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned that you had a pen name and you used your actual name.
Yes.
Do you still publish under both, or have you consolidated under your name?
I still have them separate, but I stopped writing under my pen name only because I've been wanting to promote Mary Ting, my real name.
Mhm.
And I don't, I know a lot of authors are successful with pen names, but a lot of authors, a lot of readers that read my other pen name, they don't know that it's me. And so when I go to
Mhm.
book signing, they're like, oh, you're the author who wrote that book. But I did kind of mention, or I might have listed my other YA books in there, but I don't think they go to the back sometimes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So then I realized, oh, maybe I should just stick to one name if I can. And then because of
Uh-huh.
my publisher and I want to push Mary Ting books more, that I decided, well, I'm going to kill this author. The books are still there, but
Uh-huh.
now I'm just going to go full force. And like I said, I wrote a romance novel under my name with
Uh-huh.
Rosewind Books. So now I'm able to do both. So I'm just like, well, I'll just stick to one.
Okay. So we have a couple questions about the software. When you first started publishing, the
Mhm.
formatting software for your interior, did you use anything special? Did you have somebody format for you, or how did you do that?
I don't format books myself because I get really frustrated with technology. um, so I do have someone that formats my book. And if whoever is asking me this question, just reach out to me. If you need a book formatter, I can give you a list of some of the authors I know are also formatting books too.
Hmm.
And I also know small indie publishers that will format books for author for a small fee.
Right.
So they can
And
come to me. And
always, I know that you're not using it, but there's Kindle Create out there as well, which is the free
yeah,
tool for KDP, that'll help too if you're a little technically savvy.
yeah, I get really frustrated. So I'm like, oh, forget it.
There you go. Hey, I'm all about that. If something is just too much for me or it's frustrating for me, I'm more than happy to hire somebody else to do it for me.
I think more so is because in my mind, I'm thinking, I got to get this book done. I got to get this edit
Right.
done. I don't want to spend one day learning this when I could have someone do it. So I think that's what it is.
Right, exactly. So when you first started, you were writing and teaching at the same time. How long did you do both before you decided, you know what, I can make a living full time just writing and decided to leave?
When I was teaching and writing at the same time, like I said, I didn't take being an author serious. It was fun for me. I got it done. And here, this is very exciting. And then after I started getting more messages, and I'm like, maybe I'll continue with book two. And then I started writing book two and then the whole series. And then I was like, wow, this is really fun. I'm really enjoying it. And then I think after 3 years later, 2 to 3 years later, I want to say maybe 3 years, it's when I started writing my romance novel.
Right.
And like I said, I use under my pen name. And I just kind of posted out there, here's my novel coming out. It's a sweet romance novel, but it's still a bit steamy and blah, blah. It's under my pen name and I let everybody know on social media because I didn't want to clash with my Mary
Right.
Ting book. And then it just took off. I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, I've never had that kind of ranking before. And just people reaching out to me and going, when's book two coming out? When's book two coming out? And I was like, well, soon now. And then I was making the salary beyond my, how long? I've been teaching for almost, 15 years at that time, and
Uh-huh.
with a degree. And I was, making pretty good salary. And then when this, my author world salary was surpassing my teaching salary, I was like, oh, maybe I can retire early.
Right.
So that's how it happened.
Um, okay, so we've got tons and tons of questions coming in, so
Okay.
I'm trying to so we always get the question, are you a pantser or a plotter? So do you plot your book or you just write your book?
Before, I used to just write my book, but
Uh-huh.
then my role has become bigger. And then I realized that it's a really big pain when you are writing book two and you forgot the eye color or this person's personality, or because I'm writing different genres and I
Mhm.
skip around in books and I have so many series. I'm like, what was her name again? So then I started plotting. And now I have this um, notebook where I write. The funny thing is, like, I have a computer in front of me, but I don't like typing
Mhm.
all that stuff. I need to write it out. And maybe because I'm
Okay.
old school, I don't know. But, just I like to see it in front of me when I'm writing a book. Okay, so this room looks like this, and like I said, as the world becomes bigger, I just have to make sure I've got the details right because your readers will know if you
Right.
miss they will know. So now I have both in sense that I will have details of what they look like or their personality, or for example, this person has this kind of power.
Mhm.
So I have to make sure I get that right. And then even though I have an outline of beginning, middle, and end, I don't have a full outline of each chapter
Mhm.
because I
Okay.
can't write that way. I just have to let the characters speak for themselves.
Right, right. So you
But I
kind of,
think,
it sounds to me you do a mix of both.
yes, I think that's probably the best way, for me. For me, I don't know. I just can't sit there and just plot out everything,
Right.
chapter by chapter, and say this is going to happen, this happened, but because it doesn't work out that way for me.
They kind of take on a life of their own.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So how do you manage writer's block? Is that something you struggle with?
Yes, and I think everybody does. So what I do is walk away. I put that computer away. I'll go. Sometimes it times out perfectly where, oh, I need to go cook dinner, and you're
Right.
walking away. Or just I think when I'm taking a shower, or this
Uh-huh.
is really bad when I'm driving.
Right.
Sometimes it just happens. I'm like, oh no, pay attention to the road. But also, what really helps is that I call my friend
Mhm.
Alexandria. I call her, and she and I have become like sisters.
Mhm.
We met through publishing,
Mhm.
and she's an author as well. And um, when when I'm stuck, I'll call her and I'll say, this is this and this is this. What do you think? And then she'll say, this. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. And then I start building my idea from her idea. And so,
Right.
I'm also in an author group where if I'm stuck as well, then I'll reach out to them. So I
Uh-huh.
think it's important to have a support group and authors
Right.
that you feel comfortable with, where you can tell them like, oh, this is happening, what do you think? um,
Good. Yeah. How did you build that author group? That
it took
support
a while.
network is so important.
Yes, and I have to be honest, it took a while because like when I first self-published, I didn't know anybody. And
Right.
then sometimes for other authors, they might experience it, other authors will reach out to them because maybe they read their book. And
Uh-huh.
that's what happened with me. Like another author read my book and said, "Oh, I really enjoyed your book," and blah blah blah. And then we started becoming friends, and then we help each other out. And then going to book signing really helped too, where I would meet other authors, and then we just kind of created a support group. So
Right,
that's
right. Um, so we have a question about, do you put some of your own characteristics in your characters? And I think I read in your bio you did for that first book,
I
correct?
did. I did. Because it was the only way I could write my book, because I had no idea what I was doing. And I
Right.
took all her, a lot of her experiences, mine experiences. For
Uh-huh.
example, like getting your first job, getting that first car, going camping. Um, I needed something that I knew and understood to put it on paper, or actually on your
Uh-huh.
laptop, because it was just so much easier to write this character when you base it on yourself. But
Right,
then
when you're writing from
yeah,
experience.
yes. And then as far as my other books, because I have more than 30 books, um, sometimes at the airport I would like kind of do people watching. And I try not to stare at them, but I just look at to see like what are they doing and what kind of person do I think that person might be. And I know it sounds weird, but it does help.
That's one of our favorite things to do when we're waiting in a public space, like in the airport, is making up
Uh-huh.
stories for each of the people that we see. So yeah, I can see how
Okay.
you could then introduce them to your book.
And then I also use my friend's name, so I would say, "Hey, Holly, your name is on in my book." And then I kind of base the character around her, but not fully. So,
Right.
she might be a little bit like a go-getter, so I'll make this character a
Uh-huh.
go-getter like her. But so then when she reads that book, she'll be like, "Hey, that's like me." Not fully,
I
but
recognize that person.
yeah.
Um, so Jeannie wants to know, how do you do a virtual book signing?
You can do your own if you want to on Facebook, and I would say some people use Zoom, and there's other ones out there. I just don't know too many, but you could do it with authors. But
Uh-huh.
also the book, what is that? The, for example, the book signing. I can't think of the word. Um, the bloggers have created their own
Uh-huh.
as well. That's the word. And so, you either get invited to, or you can sign up for it and you can do it
Uh-huh.
that.
Okay. Um, Robert wants to know if you edit yourself. When you were self-publishing, did you edit yourself or did you find an editor?
I did find an editor, but when I first self-published, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought, oh, here's a book. I wrote it. Yeah, let's publish it. And my friend read it. She's like, Mary, there are a few errors here on this page. I'm like, oh, yeah, I do need an editor. So she actually edited my book. And
Uh-huh.
then when I took that book and went to a smaller indie publisher, they edited for me as well.
Mhm.
But then over the years, I learned to I've met other editors. And when I'm at a book signing, they'll come to me and say, I'm an editor and here's my car. So I met a
Mhm.
lot of format editors, cover designers, models through going through the book signings. But
Mhm.
again, if anybody wants any kind of information, they need contact for editors, cover designers, and formatters, they can reach out to me and I will give them a list.
Okay, good. So how would they reach out to you?
They could email me at authormaryting@outlook.com, or direct message me on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook, I
Okay.
usually go under Mary Ting. I mean, I do
Uh-huh.
have my own page, but I think I get a ping when it comes through my messenger, and my Instagram is just author Mary Ting.
Okay, good. Um, Emma wants to know what kind of information is in your newsletter. And then how often do you send out your newsletter?
I send out newsletters when I have a cover reveal or pre-order when the book has launched. I try not to send too many because the readers already have enough from other authors. But I also do what it's called a swap newsletter with other authors.
Okay.
So I will let them know, like, okay, my newsletter is coming out tomorrow. Do you want me to share your sale? And in turn, she will post or send out my sale as well. So that
Uh-huh.
works out too. You're reaching not just yours, but theirs as well.
So how did you build your newsletter list? Just through the link at the back of the book or?
About 5 years ago, I think that's when the newsletter started really taking off, where authors were
Uh-huh.
creating newsletters. And I had a PA who was really good about that. So she
Uh-huh.
would connect me with other authors and we would do a giveaway. And what happened is that you have to put your email address in there, and then they would collect all the emails and then send you a file. But I
Uh-huh.
also found out that it's a good thing and a bad thing in a sense that sure you got all these emails, but not everyone is your fan, and then some of them
Right.
are not. They'll just kind of delete themselves, which is fine, and then they're not your authentic readers. So that was a little difficult in sense that okay, then was it a waste of time? Not really,
Mhm.
but then now I'm trying to reach out to my other readers. So what I'm doing right now is there's some places that you can give your book for free,
Mhm.
and but they have to give you your email address. And so I figure that if they want my book for free, and it's a novella, and
Uh-huh.
it's self-published because I can't give out my published book. So, I mean, with the
Right.
publisher's book. It's a novella, it's a sweet romance, quick read. And I figure if they enjoy that, they might want to read my other books. But then
Uh-huh.
if they're wanting to read that book, it's because they want to be in my newsletter too.
Right.
So now I have the authentic followers.
Good. Um, this is a really interesting question. If you're writing under a pen name and you show up for a book signing, how does that work?
I It's been 3 years or more since I stopped writing my pen name.
Uh-huh.
But what I do is that I do bring my both set of books so
Uh-huh.
that they will know, they will recognize, oh, I read this book, but I didn't know you wrote young adult books. So that's my subtle way of saying, here I am with both people.
Did you ever show up to a book signing just as your pen name?
No, because
Mhm.
I had more of Mary Ting books at that time. And it's weird saying that I'm somebody else instead of my real.
Right.
And yeah, so, but also when when they put up a banner that says who's coming, it will say
Mhm.
Mary Ting M. Clark. And sometimes
Mhm.
if I don't want M. Clark in there, I just say, just put Mary Ting.
Okay. Yeah, because when you do sign up to participate in one of the book signings, you get to control who you show up as.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we talked about the fact that you do a lot of marketing on social media. Do you ever do any advertising, run promotions, anything like that?
One thing I did try was Goodreads,
Hmm.
and which for all the new authors out there, I do highly recommend that you get on Goodreads. And what I did was I did a book giveaway, a
Uh-huh.
signed book, five of them, and I
Okay.
did it
Yeah.
U.S. and Canada. And I think that really helps you reach out to not just U.S. but other people who might have never seen your book before or heard about
Hmm.
you. So I had about 3,000 who requested for my books, which I was really surprised. And
Yeah.
they will look into my other books if they weren't really interested, and the romance book that I put up. I'm trying to think of other places. I forgot your question.
That's okay. And for those of you who want more information about how to use Goodreads giveaways or just joining Goodreads, you can check out our Developing a Promotional Strategy webinar. The recording is on our help pages, and you can check that out, and it'll give more information on kind of how to get started in that space. But that's a really good call out. I think that that's one of the underutilized
Yes.
marketing opportunities.
Yes.
All
No,
right, I think we have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Let's see. We've probably got time for just one more. So Erin wants to know, it seems like there's a lot of books out there right now. So how do you make sure that your book doesn't get lost in that sea of books?
Even as an author of being an author for 10 years, I know that my books get lost because there's so many books coming out every single day. And
Mhm.
what I feel that works best for me, and it might not work for everybody else, but is doing giveaways. And sometimes what I mean by doing giveaways is posting on Facebook and say, I'm giving a signed book giveaway. And that gives you a little exposure of your book. I also
Uh-huh.
team up with authors and we do a giveaway together.
Right.
I also go to different sites.
Mhm.
And for example, if my book is $3.99, I'm going to put it on sale for 99 cents. But I don't just change it to 99 cents and not say anything. Of course, you post it on social media, but I try to look for places where you can advertise.
Mhm.
And I go there and I buy the promotion and they reach out to their readers and they'll see that
Mhm.
it's 99 cents. And it does help. I don't
Okay.
know if, yeah,
Yeah.
there's places that I don't know if I can say the names, but they can reach
Yeah,
out
go
to me
ahead.
and I can tell them where I go, you know.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Good. All right, let's do one more.
oh, can I say something
How does,
though?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, so this really works, I think, when you have a series, is that
Okay.
I, once in a while, I'll put the first book for free.
Hmm.
And so once they get that book and they enjoy it, then it will trigger down to book 2, 3, and 4. But I would never do that with just one book.
Right. Right. That doesn't help. But
No.
yeah, having a series, having a lower price in the beginning, either free or lower than the others, I think is, to your point, a great way to get people involved.
Yeah.
Um, so we're kind of out of time, but I love this question. How does
Okay.
somebody who's technically challenged market on Instagram? So you mentioned the fact that that was a leap for you. How did you make that leap?
I asked my friends how to maneuver around Instagram. I also did my own research. I took a whole day without writing or doing edits because I had to.
Uh-huh.
Instagram is such a big marketing world out there. Lots of
Hmm.
pretty pictures. People really like to see all these pretty pictures. And there are
Hmm.
Instagram tours.
Right.
So it's important that you get on these big social media sites to get seen. And
Hmm.
like I said, I spent the whole day moving, just trying too. Sometimes I made a
Uh-huh.
mistake, I'll delete it, but you can't learn until you try.
Right. Well, thank you so much. We are at time, but you shared so much wonderful information and I loved your journey. Thank you for sharing that with us. As always, we thank you for joining us and happy publishing, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.